Why do people become more complicated as they grow up? Have you ever asked yourself this question? Have you ever silently watched a newborn baby sleeping and suddenly felt, this world is truly gentle? That tiny face, those little hands, breaths as soft as a morning dew, and you think, this is truly a little angel. But just a few months later, that baby starts to grab toys, throw tantrums, and insist on getting what they want. So what happened? Why is it that human beings, born as pure, innocent creatures, gradually become complicated, selfish, even envious? A newborn child is a result of thousands of miracles. They don't know how to speak, feel anger, or be jealous. They only know how to feel warmth, sound, light, and the love from their mother and father. That's why we often call them angels, like a blank sheet of paper, clear and full of hope. But just a few months later, that baby knows how to cry for attention, fight over toys, and demand things persistently. Why is that? Maybe it's because when they're little, children are showered with love and care. But as they grow, start school, they're often scolded and punished. All of this comes very naturally. No one teaches a child to be selfish, but the instinct to survive exists in every human being from birth. And that is not a bad thing. It's the most natural way for a being to survive in this uncertain world. When a baby is hungry, it cries. When cold, it cries. When not held, it also cries. Not out of spite, but because crying is the only language it knows at the time. As they grow a little older, the child begins to realize, backhand index pointing right, I can take the toy. Backhand index pointing right, I can cry louder so my parents give in. Backhand index pointing right, I can insist until I get what I want. And that's when the ego starts to form. A child doesn't yet know right from wrong, doesn't understand good or evil, because the brain hasn't developed enough to distinguish those concepts. The part of the brain responsible for reasoning, the prefrontal cortex, doesn't fully develop until around age 20. So children act based on emotion and instinct. There is no bad or good. Only, I want, and I don't yet understand. The ego at first is essential. It helps children express needs, protect themselves, and seek care. But if not guided properly, that ego can turn into selfishness, jealousy, anger, hurting others to gain advantage. Just think about it. A child not taught how to wait grows up easily frustrated and impatient. A child never taught to share may see other success as a threat. A child not properly loved may grow up filled with wounds and resentment buried deep in the subconscious. Look around you. Children raised in unhealthy homes, with constant beatings, yelling, divorce, or excessive pampering, often become victims. And as they grow, these same children can become people who hurt others in society. Many tragic incidents caused by youth stem from this. Reckless driving, gangs of 50 chasing each other with machetes, groups smashing bottles on the streets, causing harm to others. These are the roots of many social evils. On the other hand, children who are properly loved, raised in safe, empathetic environments, often grow into kind people. Have you ever looked back at yourself? Before becoming adults, we were all once children. As kids, we wanted to hold the whole world in our arms. Wanted our mothers to stay with us forever. Wanted our favorite toys to be just ours. Then we entered school. We had best friends. And also people we disliked, even if they did nothing wrong. Maybe because of envy, differences, or simply because our feelings told us so. After high school, we all went our separate ways. Some went to college, some to work. Those we once loved or couldn't stand no longer mattered much. If we're lucky, we might stay in touch with one or two true friends. Then we enter society, build new relationships. After school, most of us carry simple dreams. To find a good job, earn a decent salary, and be respected. But life is not that easy, is it? In the workplace, we face a fiercely competitive world, competing with colleagues inside the company, competing with rivals outside, even competing with friends our age, those who once laughed and played with us. All for one thing, the desire to be more recognized. More money, more praise from the boss, more chances to advance, more respect from society. This isn't a bad thing. It's a natural instinct as we step into life, the instinct to survive, to rise. But reality is always harsher than we imagined. Sometimes, your own colleagues talk behind your back. You're gossiped about, envied, even sabotaged. You give your all, yet still get mistreated by your boss, unable to rise no matter how hard you try. So you're forced to quit and find another job. But the new company isn't much different. Still the same crushing pressure. Job performance is what keeps us afloat. Work swallows us until we can't tell night from day, just constantly overwhelmed. This is the fierce survival instinct of all living beings. We all carry within us a relentless instinct to survive, just like every other creature on this planet. The only difference is we are the most advanced species here. From birth, we learn to strive, study hard, work nonstop just to survive. If we don't learn, don't work, don't earn, what will feed us? Life is never free. We need food, water, clothes, not just to stay warm in winter or cool in summer, but also to avoid society's judgment if we dress incorrectly. We don't just make money to spend, but to save. For when life throws unexpected hardships our way, a family emergency, sudden illness, aging parents, children needing tuition, all require money. We may put aside our own pain, even forget our fatigue. But there's one thing we can't forget. Our parents are aging and could fall ill at any time. Our children are growing fast, with rising needs for education, food, and care. Life doesn't allow us to live carelessly or forever at ease, because behind us are the elderly, and ahead, the children who are still growing. We have to carry on, not always for ourselves, but for those we love. These are the most basic needs of life, things everyone understands. But in the modern world, these needs no longer stop at just enough to live. They've been upgraded into silent, harsh standards. Today, we don't just eat to be full. It must be delicious, clean, beautifully presented, even Instagram-worthy. We don't just wear clothes for warmth. It must be branded, trendy, stylish, and appropriate. A home is no longer just shelter. It must be fully furnished, luxurious, well-located, to keep up with friends. A car is no longer just transport. It's a symbol of class and success. We're caught in a never-ending race of upgrades, where it's no longer about living well, but living better than others. And so, the more we live, the more exhausted we feel. Not because we're lazy, but because society keeps accelerating, and we aren't allowed to stop. After graduation, everyone hopes for a good job and a high salary to change their life. But life isn't that simple. Entering the workforce means stepping into a brutal competition with colleagues, with rivals, even with ourselves and peers, all just to gain a slight advantage, a compliment from the boss, a chance at promotion, a bit of respect from others. And then comes the harsh reality, being slandered, sabotaged, isolated, sometimes even being targeted by the very boss you try to please, until you feel like quitting. So you switch jobs, only to fall into the same vicious cycle again. Each day becomes a relentless whirlwind of pressure, working nonstop, barely having time to breathe. Yet you carry on because there's no other choice. Worse still, there are those who, even when they've earned enough to live comfortably for life, still want more. And to get it, they're willing to do the wrong things, ignoring morals, betraying values. Why? Because once someone has tasted the power of money, the feeling of having choices, having a voice, having status, it's incredibly hard to let go. At that point, money is no longer just a means. It becomes a measure of one's worth. And caught in that spiral, people forget what enough really means. They lose control, chasing greed, and become slaves to material things. Then one day, you find yourself wondering, why is it that the older I get, the less joy I feel compared to before? Childhood, even in poverty, even with little, was filled with simple joys, innocent laughter. But now, even with more than enough, the heart feels emptier. When we first started working, we still had dreams. Even just walking in the breeze, listening to music, could stir something deep in our hearts. But somehow, that feeling has been gone for a long time. Why? Because life pulls us too fast. It forces us to be realistic, to carry endless burdens. The genuine emotions we once had are gradually replaced by pressure, calculations, doubts, and suspicion. That is the price of growing up. So then, why do people become more complicated as they grow older? Because the human brain, like a machine, becomes more complete with age. Through time, experiences, struggles, and even heartbreaks, we come to understand more. And when you understand more, you lose the carefree spirit of a child. You begin to carry responsibility to yourself, to aging parents, to a life partner, to the children growing up day by day. Then there's extended family, rent, school fees, medical bills. All of it becomes a burden, a worry, things we can't avoid. And from that point on, every thought, every action, every decision we make begins to change. Some changes make us better, but some changes harden us, make us cold, even cause us to lose ourselves. Growing up is a journey, from simplicity to complexity, from carefree to responsible, from innocence to inner conflict. Then one day, when our hair is turned gray, we finally realize it all comes full circle. Good turns to bad. Bad turns back toward good. In the end, all desires, all struggles, all glory fade into dust. It turns out life is just a journey, and the further we go, the more we must learn to return. Return to simplicity. Return to genuine feelings. Return to ourselves. Before everything turns into nothingness. This is your confidant. If there's anything you'd like to share, don't hesitate to leave a message in the comments. We're always here to listen. If you see us as a companion in your quiet thoughts and emotions, hit follow so we can continue these conversations. As true friends, thank you for taking the time to listen. Wishing you a peaceful and warm-hearted day.